The Falcons were on the road for week 4, and no, they didn't take flight, they took a bus. And early on, they were rolling. After a huge John O'Kelly turnover, the Falcons were able to strike first and go up 6-0. But Tarleton State would fight back, and they would score on the very next drive. And then they'd do it again. But don't worry, folks, the first quarter was far from over. True freshman in this week's QB1, Taylor Null, has found a new favorite target, Mr. Christian Brown, as they connected multiple times and once for a score. These two went together better than grilled cheese and tomato soup. Wow, I'm hungry, and unfortunately, so were the Texans, as they would go on to score 23 unanswered points. Tarleton wins this one 35-13. UTPB falls to 0-4, but there is still plenty of time left in this season. I'm Marshall Kramsky, and this is Falcon Focus.
From the home of Falcon football, CBS 7 presents Falcon Focus with Jake Gaydon and Marshall Kramsky.
What's up, Falcon faithful, and welcome to Falcon Focus. No Jake today, I'm Marshall Kramsky.
That's right, Jake Gaydon, or Jake from State Farm's at an insurance convention in San Antonio, so well wishes there, and I hope he's having a great time. As always, we are joined with UTPB head football coach Justin Kerrigan. Let's get straight to work breaking down week 4 against Tarleton State.
Yeah, we're going to start things a little differently today, as we're really going to focus on that first quarter, where, as you know, a lot of action happened. So, huge turnover to start the game by John O'Kelly. Could you kind of walk us through what happened from the turnover to the score 2 plays later, how things were going, and just really what went on in the team and through the X's and O's?
Well, simple thing for him playing a weak side defensive end, outside linebacker. The call was just for him to kind of drop into coverage, read the play a little bit. Quarterback, play fake, went to throw to the boundary receiver, and he was where he was supposed to be. Came up with the interception and got us in great score position. 2 plays later, good touchdown.
And right when that kind of happened, you set the tone for the game. Where, what were the kids feeling at that moment? Like, was there like a lot of encouragement going on? What was like in the huddle? How I'm assuming they were amped up. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the guys were excited. Similar to last week against Midwestern. Jump on the board early. It gives you a little bit more confidence going into the game early on and seeing that you can play with an opponent. But again, that's just stuff that we got to sustain for 4 quarters. We can't get too high with those moments, and at the same time, we can't get too low when bad things happen as well.
Sure. Well, on the very next drive, Tarleton, they got the ball back and went 70 yards downfield. They had a lot of success with their run game. What is something that your defense can learn from them, and how do you stop a powerful run game like that?
Well, a lot of it comes down to just tackling, finishing. When you get to the ball carrier, you got to wrap up and you got to finish the tackle. A lot of extended drives. We had a guy tackled on 3rd and short or 3rd and long, whatever it might be, 3rd down, and he gets away. And we got guys there to make a play. We just got to finish the plays and get off the field in those opportunities whenever we can take advantage of them.
Sure, and not to pour salt in any wounds here, but that next drive for Tarleton, you guys almost get a gift. The 61-yard touchdown negated, and then later on they still get that score. So for the team, from a coaching perspective, what is it that, because you never want 2 unanswered points and you get a gift, how do you fix that going forward with taking advantage of those things?
Well, again, the biggest thing is just play the one play at a time. You can't focus too much on getting the gift that they got the touchdown taken off the board. That's just one play. You got to be able to play the next play. And again, the big thing for us right now is we got to be more consistent. We got to be better at tackling, obviously, and getting off the field on 3rd downs. We got to be more consistent offensively. There were too many times we backed ourselves up into a hole. After a penalty, then getting a bad play, a sack or a tackle for loss, and just not being clean enough consistently.
Well, talk a moment about the discipline on your team. At Tarleton, they racked up a lot of penalties where y'all did not. What does that look like when y'all are practicing? You play a clean game. Y'all talk all the time about the little things. Is that one of them?
Well, unfortunately, we did have some personal foul penalties. Yeah. And really, I can only find one that I think was a legitimate call, and it wasn't anything than one of our guys just kind of getting in the face of another player. The other ones really were unfortunate. I can't tell you why the referees threw the flag on those plays live and even on tape. I don't see anything there that says that our guys should have gotten a 15-yard penalty. Our guys play with a lot of passion, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. I don't like those penalties. We'll obviously address that tonight in meetings. and then on the field. But we got to clean that stuff up a little bit. But again, live and going back and watching the film of it, I don't see where some of those penalties were called.
Well, another one big highlight out of the first quarter, 2 big plays between Taylor Knoll and Christian Brown. It seems like this duo, they're just really hitting it off between this week and that huge touchdown last week. Is this chemistry something that you expected, and where do you expect that to go from here?
Well, Taylor does a good job of just seeing the field and kind of getting the ball where it needs to go. It just happens to be that Christian Brown's been on the better end of that whenever it's connected. So I don't know if there's any chemistry there. Hopefully he's got chemistry with all of them.
Sure.
He does a good job of spreading it around and getting it to where it needs to be. But Christian's an explosive player, and so when we get the ball in his hands, obviously we got a chance to make some big plays.
And last play of not the last play, but close to the end of the first quarter, they take that lead back. Now Tarleton, and it looks like this game's about to be a shootout, a real nail biter. As you score, they score, you score, they score. What kind of happened there? Because right then, that's when Tarleton kind of said, this is going to kind of be our game here. What was the turning point?
Well, again, I think it just came down to the consistency on both sides of the ball. Offensively, being able to continue drives, not get pinned too deep and give up any big plays for the defense. But we got to be able to be more consistent. Again, we got to finish. We get them in third down. We got to be able to get off the field. And then offensively, we got to be able to get to the end zone.
Yeah, there was a lot of football in that first quarter. I kept looking at the clock thinking, is it really still the first quarter? 5 touchdowns to be specific. Coach, when there are that many touchdowns so early on, how do you adjust the game and make plans for the rest of the game?
Well, that's a good question. You try not to think too far ahead. Again, you want to make sure that your guys are fresh. You don't extend anybody out. There are times that offensively, we got to talk about the defense just had a long drive. We got to put together a couple first downs, buy them some time to kind of catch their breath on the sidelines. And again, for us as coaches, we got to monitor our guys and when do we need to sub in and out and make sure that we're staying fresh. But again, in the first quarter, you don't want to look too far ahead, but you got to be able to plan for some of that stuff.
Sure. We've got a lot more coming up in the next half. Marshall, he's now taking an in-depth look at the Falcons offense and was able to pick our Week 4 Falcon Offensive Player of the Week.
We're back with more Falcon Focus with Jake Dayton and Marshall Kramsky.
Welcome back to Falcon Focus. We are breaking down the second half of this game.
That's right, Tatum. But before we get to that, Coach, Taylor Knoll, second start of his career. This one, first time on the road. How do you think he did?
He did okay. There was a few mistakes in there. We got to be able to provide some more time for him, and I think that's where some of the things break down. Is the one interception he threw, he got hit right as he threw it. I think if we got time to step up in the pocket, we're throwing a touchdown to Kyle McBride. For being a true freshman on the road, again, against another top-tier opponent, I think Tarleton State's going to be playing for a conference championship this year. I thought he played exceptionally well, and some of the things to clean up is not necessarily as much with him as it is the parts around him.
Well, taking a closer look at the offense this week, the Falcons didn't put up any more points really after the first quarter. What are some things that y'all are going to be looking at to work on going into this week?
Again, it just goes back to consistency, and then to practice that is just to continue to rep the same stuff over and over again. You got to have a great capacity for boredom to continue to repeat the same things. But that's how we're going to get great at it, is to continue to do it until, not so much to where we get it right, but till we can't get it wrong. And again, going back to the drawing board and just continuing to do some of the same things in our offense and making sure that we can execute it flawlessly. And as we get a little bit deeper into the season, some of our new pieces, hopefully that we'll start getting to that point of closer to perfection.
And I know you talk, especially today, but in general, anyone you talk to in the program, the theme is consistency. That's what we need to do. Now, I know you just said, it's got to be practice boredom and just, keep on repping out the same things. But at some point, it's like, we're tough schedule so far, 0-4 though. What is it do you have to do differently, you think, moving forward to make sure you are getting to the consistent place that you want to be?
Well, again, some of it goes back to the drawing board, and are there some pieces of the puzzle that we need to move around? Are there different guys that we need to fit in? Are there some guys that just aren't getting it quite fast enough? And is there somebody else that we could put in there to give us a better chance to win? From there is making sure that we're doing things that give our guys a chance to be successful. Are we calling the right plays and the right schemes and things of that nature? And it's hard to say that we're not, because you can see whenever we execute clean, we can play with anybody. We just don't do it consistently enough. And again, it kind of goes back to the Johnnies and the Joes a little bit. Are there guys that we got to evaluate and move pieces around them? We just had a staff meeting about that, and we'll continue to do that each week and see where we can find that right piece of the puzzle.
Well, that's one thing that I always tell people out in the public. Look at the big picture here. y'all have had some really tough opponents starting off your season, and y'all hung with them. That's the thing. And, one of the big players, especially on your defense, Chris Hode, he had 15 tackles in this game. He's a major part of that defense. And they really stepped up in that second half. They held Tarleton. What are some takeaways from the defense?
Well, I think that's it right there, is that we played a little bit more assignment sound. We were able to stop the run. A couple of fourth down stops on the goal line. And the defense was a little bit more sound in what they were doing. And some of it just comes to settling down a little bit. I think at times we get a little bit too anxious, too excited early in games, and it takes us a little bit too long to settle down, especially defensively. But I think once they can kind of see that and we can kind of play a little bit level head earlier on, we might have a cleaner game.
So now, going back, we're talking a lot about the defense. Let's talk specifically right now. Chris Hode, huge game, 15 total tackles. I think it was 8 solos. Kind of a bet on this team right now. How big is he right now for the hopeful soon-to-be continued success of this program?
He's huge. Keegan Gray, John O'Kelly, some of those guys that have been with us and been impactful are big players for us. And we need those guys to continue to bring the same energy and excitement that they've been, the same production, obviously, and kind of lead this team through these difficult times and brighter days ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and when you talk about consistency, those are the names that come up. Chris Hode, John O'Kelly, those are big players, and they really are. I've talked about this a lot. They're setting the standard for some success because it's going to come. It will.
No, it is. There's no doubt. And the first 2 games, too close for comfort. The last 2 games, we've showed that we can play and compete with the top level talent in the conference and in the country. Again, as we got to continue to get a little bit more consistent, I think we'll find some great success here in the coming weeks.
Let's stay with the defense. Marshall has the Defensive Players of the Week.
We're back with more Falcon Focus with Jake Dayton and Marshall Kramsky.
Every week we are putting the spotlight on one Falcon. And when you talk about the Falcons and their success, there is one name you're always going to hear. John O'Kelly. The outside linebacker has had an impressive season so far. He says he's just getting started. You know the saying, actions speak louder than words. That is John O'Kelly. He doesn't talk about himself.
I don't know.
But he doesn't have to.
That's what I do. I don't know. Nothing special, really, I guess.
Watch this. He lets his play on the field speak for him.
I feel like it's just hustle.
And listen to this. O'Kelly leads the nation in sacks this season and is 4th in the nation in tackles for a loss. He was a Lone Star Conference Freshman of the Year last year and tied the NCAA lead in blocked kicks. All proof of O'Kelly's dedication week in and week out.
And so you want to be the best. You want to be, say I'm number 1 in sacks. I want to be number 1 in sacks, and I don't want to lose that. I think the little things definitely matter. I think it started, for me, it started my redshirt season during the off season, just working hard, and that just taught me that I could succeed if I worked hard.
He works hard, not just for his team, but so that other teams know that if they're playing the Falcons, they have their work cut out for them.
What you put on tape is your standard, and that's what everyone sees of you. So I feel like every game I want to put on tape that I want the other team to know that I'm there.
You could say O'Kelly is setting the standard, one hit at a time. There are always several players that are just so much fun to watch. That's John O'Kelly. And when people talk about him, they go, where did they find this guy? How did y'all get him to this program? He's awesome.
I don't want to draw a blank. Groesbeck, Texas, Groesbeck High School, outside of Waco. And I don't want to give credit where it's not due, but I think Coach Minio was the one that recruited him. Going back, that was his area, was the Syntax, and especially the Waco area. We put on his film, and I think he had some of his high school clips in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard to see that there's a 6'2", 6'3" high school kid running around making the plays that he was. And for us, it was a no-brainer. And I wanted to get him in our program, got him out here on a visit. Fortunate enough that he said yes to be a Falcon, and we couldn't be happier with the product that we have and how he handles himself on a daily basis and on the football field.
Absolutely. He's just, you talk to him and you're speaking to him one-on-one, you're like, that's not the same guy out on the field. What has he brought to this program?
Energy, excitement, passion, hard work. It's grit every day. But it's the motor and the way that he plays. And then off the field, like you said, great guy, kind of hard to piece it together that it's the same person But just the way that he carries himself on a daily basis, he's a winner, he's a champion, and it shows up on Saturdays.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he does going into the next few weeks because, man, he's good. Well, Marshall also broke down the play of the week. Let's see who he had.
We're back with more Falcon Focus with Jake Dayton and Marshall Kramsky.
The football program is not only growing its team, but the coaching staff as well. This season has brought a lot of new faces to the program, and as you know, we introduce you to one of the new coaches every week.
That's right. The Falcon football program has added to its coaching staff to ensure that each position is getting the attention that they need to hone in on their craft. This week, I got to know Coach A.J. Woolley. Okay, I'm here with Coach Woolley. All right, hardest question, Coach. What position do you coach?
Tight ends and H-backs.
Okay, so tell me your background. Where do you come from?
From Austin originally. Went to college in Louisiana at LSU. Past couple years I was coaching high school in East Texas, Pittsburgh High School, and I moved out to Odessa this past summer.
So what made you want to make that jump from high school to college coaching?
Just being at the top of your profession or of your class is something I've always wanted to do. College is a step up from high school, so that was attractive to me. Getting to work with, older athletes and getting to teach them more and, get more in depth is something I was interested in as well.
Absolutely, and this is a relatively new program, so you can say that you were, one of the starters that helped
No doubt.
lay that foundation.
No doubt.
So what has been some, I guess, the high points so far?
Really just getting to work with the guys every day, getting better every day, just trying to grow as a program. I've got a pretty young position group, so watching them grow from day one in August to now has been great, and I know it's going to continue.
Have you noticed a difference between skill set from players that you're used to working with, I guess, the past few years?
Yeah. I mean, the college football game obviously is a huge difference between then and high school. Just the maturity of the athletes, physically and mentally, and just the skill level. Everybody here was a very good high school player.
Yeah.
So it's a huge difference.
Absolutely. So we are a few games in. Mm-hmm. What are some good things that you're seeing from the guys that you work with?
Like I said, our growth from day one. I've got a really young position group. 3 of my 4 current guys are true freshmen, so they were playing high school football last season. So getting them to where they need to be mentally and physically has been, a huge part of what we're doing. So it's great to see how they've grown so far.
And what are some things that you like about UTPB and being part of this program, the staff?
Oh, like we were talking about, I love being in Odessa. It's a great place to coach football. The staff, I'm learning so much from Coach Kerrigan and Coach Felt and Coach Wright and all the other guys on the defensive side, and it's just been a great opportunity for me personally as a coach to grow.
Well, we love having you here. So last question, and it's kind of turned into one of my favorite things. Coach Woolley, if you had a superpower, what would your superpower be?
So we discussed this after you asked Coach Wright. We spent some time talking about this, and Coach Felt and I kind of came to an agreement that the ability to stop and alter time would be pretty exceptional, just because that's kind of the great equalizer. Everybody has the same amount of time. So if you could have more time, or you could fast forward or rewind or stop, that would be pretty cool.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm talking a second about Coach Woolley's impact on the program so far.
Well, he's been great. He's brought a little bit different scheme to us and philosophy, and coming from a high school that ran a little bit similar offense to what we do. He brings some newer nuances of things that I haven't done in the past, which really affect his position group as well, the fullbacks, tight ends guys, and like he said in that clip, 3 of the 4 of them are all true freshmen, and it's a great group for him to have, and excited about that group.
That's great. Well, we're going to take one last short break, but don't go anywhere. We are going to take a quick look ahead at UTPB's matchup next week at home against Western New Mexico. Don't go anywhere. Back to Falcon Focus. We end today's show with a look at next week.
That's right. Next week, the Falcons, they are back at Ratliff taking on Western New Mexico. I know it's Sunday. Y'all haven't had much time to really look at any tape. What do you know about this program, and what are y'all doing to get ready?
Well, we know that it's a new staff, new head coach, Coach Tristan, and he's had good success in the past where he's been, and I think his team's going to play well. They're going to play hard. They're going to be well coached, at least from what we've seen in the past, and kind of excited to have a new challenge of a new head coach, a new staff, and Western New Mexico coming to town.
Get us the W.
And from a team standpoint, I know we touched on a lot not worrying about the other guys, what is it the Falcons' quick answer that they need to do and you guys need to do to get to that over that hump?
Well, the big thing offensively is we got to establish the run, something that we have not done well since really Texas Southern. We got to get the ground game going and then continue to hit on those big plays, Christian Brown, Ben Galaviz, and the rest of the crew.
Awesome. Well, that's all the time we have here on Falcon Focus. Thanks so much for joining us. And make sure to tune in next week. And also catch the fifth quarter with Jake and I next Friday.
So for Marshall, Coach, and myself, y'all have a great night and an even better week.